So going back to the viewer's ad experience and the role it plays, I think you got to go back and say, take a trip down memory lane, right? Arguably, Netflix and Hulu really ushered in the world of streaming and CTV, and it was not ad supported, right? It was even as low as $5.99 a month, which was a huge win for consumers. But we've enjoyed that luxury, and we've seen the prices go up year over year, and digging into that sort of revenue data, we started to see it wasn't necessarily because they were greedy, but rather it was a loss leader priced below fair market value to pull in market share. Today adding up 2 to 3 premium services, that are also now ad supported, we'd be at par, if not paying more than we used to pay with the triple play passes, if you remember that. And I do believe that the advertising experience is as relevant, if not more important, in this day and age, because we're paving the way to the future of TV advertising. The viewer experience for CTV largely falls within 2 buckets. The first sort of mirroring sort of the historical linear live stream experience, where when you turn on the television, you're seeing whichever episode the network shows up, and you get sort of what you're served. The second sort of falls within the bucket of video on demand, where the program and the whole season is available, and you can watch whatever is available, to your heart's desire. And that's where some of the new experiences around binge watching is sort of coming to bear. But however, irrespective of sort of the experiences there, both help subsidize the cost of service, as well as give time for brands to speak to the consumer. The actual perceived, the trade-off between, the high quality viewer experience, as well as, the publisher, I think it's important to note that it's not a zero-sum game. In fact, we believe that we can deliver highly engaging advertising experiences while maintaining a high quality of viewer experience, right? We've recently in the upfronts launched a number of advanced ad formats to do just that. High impact ads to shoppable QR code ads, right, to aid in the experience in which the brand and the advertiser can help with product discovery, as well as help with the content flow better to the ad experience. We've also launched pause ads as well as binge ads to our suite of products as well.
Now, in these new ad-supported environments, there's been a lot more discussion about inventory transparency. So I wanted to hear what you could tell us more about things like program level metadata, like the genre, the programming, and pod position. Why are those so important in connected TV media buying and selling?
Absolutely. If we think about it, it actually is pretty straightforward. From the buyer's perspective, they really want to know what they're getting. In the programmatic ecosystem, if the metadata isn't shared with the buyer, and the buyer doesn't know, or rather, if the buyer only knows that it's an opportunity with one of Televisa Univision's apps, with no context of what genre or what program or what pod positioning there is, then the buyer isn't none the wiser on the value in which the content is driving for the buyer. So when we start to juxtapose that with what was offered in our linear services, it's actually fairly standard. And I see this as sort of a part of the convergence between traditional linear television and CTV and the programmatic world. I think it's a little bit about ensuring that we're transparent, we're sharing and fulfilling the full value of what our content can offer.
Now, Univision, you're making a big push into streaming. And so as video and TV converge, how are media buying and selling changing with these new services? And what are some of the big opportunities you're seeing at Univision?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question out there, right? I think as we sort of see both worlds, converging, I think we have to think about it from both sides. For linear, I think there's learning where there's almost a fundamental shift in strategy and learning that can be done as those media endpoints go further into being delivered digitally. The digital ecosystem is truly considered big data, because you have richer data sets that come back at a faster pace in near real time, which can enable a number of different strategies and behaviors in television for television buyers and sellers that they have not been privy to. Real time, RTB or real time bidding for one, header bidding or dynamic pricing, et cetera. For the digital buyers, it's more about understanding the value of the big screen, I think. That it's not just another endpoint or impression with 100% viewability above the fold and part of pre-bid, right? I had this conversation once with a CTO who had just learned about, or rather who got into his digital advertising, or got into advertising through digital. And he first compared to learning digital as the study of astronomy, whereas he was learning, and whereas learning linear was the study of astrology almost. And that was eye-opening for me, because what it told me was that linear, for a digital buyer going to linear, it's not as straightforward. I think there's a lot that is tied to the Nielsen legacy and how business was done before. And really, it's about understanding the value of media math and measurement, and that there's a lot of return path data that can come from the ACR and the set-top boxes. But ultimately, it has to do with the technology that CTV has not been able to solve for, which is around personification. And that's something that I think really understanding that aspect of it will help the convergence between CTV and linear.
And another thing we're seeing is more automation with the growth of automated auctions that have been around in digital, but now are coming to different parts of the television marketplace. So in that environment, how is Univision approaching your direct sold versus programmatic efforts?
Yeah, today, direct sold and programmatic sales are coming slowly together. I think internally, there are a lot of systems that actually are done separately, and we do believe that those two should operate in concert together. That is why we're investing heavily in partners who are working in unified auctioning and ad decisioning that are interoperable across a number of our ad servers. I think it's important also to note that for Televisa Univision, it's not just video that we're involved in, right? While it's a huge part of our offering in the market, we also have podcasts and audio, social, as well as linear and live events. And we're also local, regional, as well as national. And so when you think about from a system standpoint, each of those might have its own disparate system, and those really need to work in concert and decision together. So while there is a aspect of ad decisioning between direct and programmatic, we want to ensure all of those things, including the regional, the national, and the local, the audio, the linear, and the live events, start working together. That's the future that we're marching towards.
And finally, Brian, I was hoping just to get your perspective on what you expect to happen next in the next few months or a year or so, if there's anything that we need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I know that, this is something that, has been spoken about a number of times. I do believe that many of the features that we've seen in programmatic buying will come back and be front and center in a very big way for video buyers. As CTV continues to grow and the pipes that we're sitting on are going to be IP deliver based, it's going to change a lot for the systems between buyers and sellers. While we're still, I think, quite a bit way, I am really excited about that sort of coming to bear.